Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and I'm gonna continue with Alice in Wonderland. It's now on chapter 10, so let's get right to it. Chapter 10, The Lobster Quadrille. The mob turtle sighed deeply and drew the back of one flapper across his eyes. He looked at Alice and tried to speak, but for a minute or two sobs choked his voice, same as if he had the bone in his throat. Said said the Griffin, and it set to work shaking him and punching him in the back. At last the mock turtle recovered his voice, and with tears running down his cheeks, he went on again. "You may not have lived much under the sea, I haven't," said Alice, "and perhaps you were never even introduced to a lobster." Alice began to say, "I once tasted," but checked herself hastily and said, "No, never. So you can have no idea what the delightful thing a lobster quadrille is." "No, indeed," said Alice. "What a sort of a dance is it?" "Why," said Ali the Griffin, "you first form into a line along the seashore." "Two lines," cried the Mock Turtle. "Seals, turtles, salmon, and so on. Then when you've cleared all the jellyfish out of the way—" "That generally takes some time," interrupted the Griffin. "You advance twice. Earth each with a lobster as a partner," cried the Griffin. "Of course," the Mock Turtle said, "advance twice said to partners, change the lobster and retire in the same order," continued the Griffin. "Then you know," the Mock Turtle went on, "you throw the lobster," shouted the Griffin, "with a bound into the air. "As far out to sea as you can, swim after them," screamed the Griffin. "Turn a somersault into the sea," cried the Mock Turtle, capering wildly about. "Change lobster again," yelled the Griffin at the top of its voice. "Back to land again, and that's all the first figure," said the Mock Turtle, suddenly dropping his voice, and the two creatures who had been jumping about like mad things all this time sat down again very sadly and quietly, and looked at Alice. "It must be a very pretty dance," said Alice timidly. "Would you like to see a little of it?" said the Mock Turtle. "Very much indeed," said Alice. "Come and let's try to figure out the first figure," said the Mock Turtle to the Griffin. "We can do it without lobster, you know. We shall sing." "Oh, you sing," said the Griffin. "I've forgotten the words." So they began solemnly dancing round and round Alice, every now and then treading on her toes when they passed too close, and waving their forepaws to mark the time, while the Mock Turtle sang this very slowly and sadly. "Will you walk a little faster?" said Willie in a snail. There is a porpoise close behind us, and he's treading on my lail. See how eagerly the lobster and the turtles all advance. They are wailing on a single "Will you come and join the dance? Will you, won't you, will you join the dance? Won't you join the dance?" You can really have no notion of how delightful it will be when they take us up and throw us with the lobster out to the sea. But the snail replied, too far, and uh, gave a look askance. Said he thanked the willing kindly, but he would not join the dance. Would not join the dance. Would not join the dance. "What matters it how far we go?" his scaly friend replied. "There's another shore, you know, upon the other side, the further off from England, the nearer is to France. Then turn not pale, beloved snail, but come and join the dance. Will you, won't you, will you join the dance? Won't you join the dance?" "Thank you, it's a very interesting dance to watch," said Alice, feeling very glad that it was over at last. "And I do so like that curious song about the whiting." "Oh, as to the whiting," said the mock turtle, you have seen them, of course." "Yes," said Alice, I have often seen them at the inn." She checked herself hastily. "I don't know where the inn may be," said the mock turtle, "but if you've seen them so often, of course you know what they were like." "I believe so," Alice replied thoughtfully. "They have their tails in their mouths, and they are all for crumbs." "You are wrong about the crumbs," said the mock turtle. "Crumbs would all wash off in the sea, but they have their tails in their mouths. And the reason is—" Here the Mock Turtle yawned and shut his eyes. "Tell her about the reason and all that," he said to the Griffin. "The reason is," said the Griffin, "that they would go with the lobster to the dance." So They got thrown out to sea, so they had to fall a long way. To fall a long way, so they got their tails fast in their mouth, so they couldn't get them out again. That's all. Thank you, said Alice. It's very interesting. I never knew so much waiting before. I can tell you more than that if you like, said the Griffin. Do you know why it's called a waiting? I never thought about it, said Alice. Why? That's the boots and shoes. The Griffin replied very solemnly. Alice was truly puzzled. That's the boots and shoes, she repeated in wondering tone. Why are your shoes done with? Said the Griffin. I mean, what makes them so shiny? Alice looked down at them and considered a little before she gave her answer. They're done with blacking, I believe. Boots and shoes under the sea. The Griffin went on in a deep voice. Are done with wetting? Now you know. "What are they made of?" Lilias asked in a tone of great curiosity. "Soles and eels, of course," the Griffin replied rather impatiently, and his rim could have told you that. "If I'd been with the wedding," said Alice, whose thoughts were still running on the song, I would have said to the purpose, "Keep back, please. We don't want you with us." They were obliged to have him with them. The Motoro said no wise fish would go anywhere without a porpoise. "Wouldn't it really?" said Alice in a tone of great surprise. "Of course not," said the Motoro. "Why, if a fish came to me and told me he was going a journey, I should say with that porpoise." "Don't you mean propose?" said Alice. "I mean what I say," the Motoro replied in an offended tone. And the Griffin added, "Come, let's hear some of your adventures." "I could tell you my adventures beginning from this morning," said Alice a little timidly, "but it's no use going back to the yesterday, because I was a different person then." "Explain all that," said the Motoro. "No, no," said the adventures first, said the Griffin in an impatient tone. "Explanation takes such a dreadful time." So Alice began telling them her adventures from the time when she first saw the white rabbit, and she was a little nervous about it just at first. The two creatures got so close to her, on each side, and opened their eyes and mouths and so very wide. But she gained courage as she went on. Her listeners were perfectly quiet till she got to the part about the repeating "You are old Ada William." The caterpillar and the words all coming different, and then the Motoro drew a long breath and said, "That's very curious. It's all about curious as it can be," said the Griffin. "It all came different," the Motoro repeated thoughtfully. "I should like to hear her try and repeat something now." "Tell her to begin." He looked at the Griffin as if he thought it had some kind of authority over Alice. "Stand up and repeat." "This this the voice of this sluggard," said the Griffin. "How creatures order one about and make one repeat lessons," thought Alice. "I might just as well be at school at once." However, she got up and began to repeat it, but her head was so full of lobster quadrille that she hardly knew what she was saying, and the words came very queer and deep. This is the voice of lobster," I heard him declare. You have baked me to rum, and must trigger my hair, as a duck with its eyelids, so he with his nose, trim his belt and his buttons, and turn out his toes. That's a, that's different from what I used to say when I was a child," said the Griffin. "Well, I never heard it before," said the monk. "But but it sounds uncommon nonsense." Alice said nothing. She had sat down again with her face in her hands, wondering if anything would ever happen in a natural way again. "I should like to have it explained," said the Motoro. "She can't explain it," said the Griffin hastily. "Go on with the next verse." But about his toes?" The Motoro persisted. "How could he turn them out with his nose, you know?" "It's the first position in dancing," Alice said, but she was dreadfully puzzled by the whole thing and longed to change their subject. "Go on with the next verse," the Griffin repeated impatiently. "It begins, 'I passed by his garden.'" Alice did not dare to disobey, though she felt assured it would all come wrong, and she went on in trembling voice, I passed by his garden, and marked with one eye how the owl and the oyster were sharing a pig." "What is the use of repeating all that stuff?" the motor interrupted. "If you don't explain it as you go on, it's by far the most confusing thing I ever heard." "Yes, I think you would better leave off," said the Griffin, and Alice was only too glad to do so. "Shall we try another figure of lobster quadrille?" the Griffin went on. "Or would you like the Motorola to sing you a song?" "Oh, a song, please, if the Motorola would be so kind," Alice replied so eagerly that the Griffin said in a rather offended tone, No accounting for taste. Sing her turtle soup, will you, old fellow? The mock turtle sighed deeply and began in a voice sometimes checked by with sobs to sing this. Beautiful soup is originally waiting in a hot tureen, who for such dainties would not stoop. Soup of the evenings, beautiful soup. Soup of the evening, beautiful soup. Bean beautiful so soup. So beautiful so soup of the evening, beautiful, beautiful soup. Beautiful soup, who cares for fish, camphor, or any other dish, would not give all else for two pennyworths, only for beautiful soup. Pennyworth only for beautiful soup. Beautiful soup, beautiful soup. Soup of the evening, beautiful soup. Curse again, cried the Griffin, and the Mock Turtle had just begun to repeat it, when a cry of "The trial is beginning" was heard in the distance. "Come on!" cried the Griffin, and taking Alice by the hand, it hurried up without waiting for the end of the song. "What is the trial is?" Alice panted as he ran, but the Griffin only answered "Come on!" and ran the faster, while more and more family came carried on the beast that followed them the melancholy words, "Soup of the evening, beautiful, beautiful soup." So I think that's the end of the chapter 10, and thank you.